something unimaginable is unfolding between India and Pakistan. A new clash plan that has not just the subcontinent, but the entire world on edge. For decades, these two nations have stood as rivals, divided by borders, blood, and ideology. But this time it's not just another standoff. This time, the game has changed. The air is thick with tension. Military convoys move quietly under the cover of darkness. Satellite images show patterns that analysts can't ignore. And somewhere behind closed doors, the new clash plan is being finalized. Both nations know one wrong step could ignite a storm that no one can control. But how did we get here? The beginning of the unseen war, it started not with missiles, but with words. A statement from New Delhi, sharp, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. Within hours, Islamabad responded. The exchange wasn't just diplomatic, it was strategic theater. Both sides knew the message wasn't only for each other, but for the world watching from afar. Behind the headlines, intelligence networks from Washington to Beijing are already awake. Every signal, every satellite feed, every intercepted call is being analyzed like never before. The global powers know if India and Pakistan clash again, the 21st century balance of power could collapse overnight. India's strategic push, India's latest plan, insiders claim, isn't about traditional war. It's about pressure, precision, and perception. Using advanced surveillance, cyber tactics, and information warfare, India aims to shape global opinion before a single bullet is fired. The new doctrine focuses on deterrence by dominance, making sure Pakistan understands that India's readiness is not just military, but psychological. Behind the scenes, the Indian Navy moves closer to the Arabian Sea, conducting what officials call routine drills. But intelligence insiders whisper otherwise. The drills are part of a greater show of force, a signal to both Pakistan and Beijing that India is prepared for the next generation battlefield. Pakistan's silent counterplan, but Pakistan is not sleeping. Under the new National Security Directive, Islamabad's response strategy has changed completely. No loud announcements, no chest thumping, just quiet, strategic repositioning. Sources suggest Pakistan's Silent Shield program, a countermeasure involving cyber defense, tactical mobility, and international diplomacy, is now fully operational. While India projects strength, Pakistan is building alliances, quietly gaining diplomatic traction across the Muslim world, China, and even in parts of Europe. The new clash isn't about land, it's about leverage. Each side knows the other's limits, but they're now testing how far those limits can stretch before the world intervenes. The global players move as the situation heats up. Washington watches carefully. The U.S. has interests on both sides, economic, strategic, and political. While Washington publicly calls for peace, it privately evaluates how this tension can shape its own Indo-Pacific strategy. China, meanwhile, moves differently. Beijing's support for Pakistan remains clear, but now it's more cautious, not out of fear but out of calculation. Russia steps in with its own cards, ready to sell weapons and mediate peace, whichever brings it more power. This isn't just an India-Pakistan standoff anymore. It's a proxy chessboard, where every move is being influenced, funded, or observed by the world's top superpowers. The media war begins in today's world. The first shot isn't fired by a soldier, it's fired by a story. Social media platforms are flooded with claims, counterclaims, and shocking leaks. Fake news and propaganda mix with reality so seamlessly that truth itself becomes a weapon. Indian media pushes narratives of strength and unity. Pakistani media responds with footage of resilience and retaliation. Each video, each headline, each hashtag is part of a larger battle for public perception. This is the information war, and it's just as deadly as the real one. Meanwhile, international newsrooms from CNN to Al Jazeera are framing the story in their own interests. One calling it regional instability, another warning of nuclear risk. But behind the noisy lies the truth that nobody dares to speak out loud. This clash was never accidental. It was engineered. The shadow diplomacy in the shadows. Envoys travel between capitals. Secret meetings in Dubai. Confidential calls from London. And encrypted briefings in Washington. All trying to defuse a crisis that hasn't even exploded yet. But here's the twist. The more the world tries to calm things down, the more the pressure builds up behind closed doors. Because both India and Pakistan know stepping back now means political weakness at home. And no leader, not in New Delhi nor in Islamabad, wants to be seen as weak. The world holds its breath, ladies and gentlemen. The stage is set. Two nuclear powers, both confident, both ready, both watching the other's every move. The armies are not yet marching. but the minds behind them are already at war. The new clash plan isn't about immediate invasion, it's about long-term domination. Cyber strategies, defense corridors, intelligence games, and diplomatic maneuvers. This is a war that plays out before the first missile even leaves the ground. But the question the world is asking is this: who will make the first move? And when it happens, who will stop it? Because this time, if the line is crossed, there may be no turning back. As the tension between India and Pakistan rises like a silent storm, the world begins to shift. From Washington to Moscow, Beijing to Riyadh, leaders wake up to a new reality. Two nuclear nations are once again standing on the edge, and the next move could decide the future of global power itself. But here's the truth that the mainstream media won't tell you. This clash isn't just about India and Pakistan. It's about the entire world order. Every major power sees an opportunity or a threat, and behind every statement of peace lies a strategy of control. The American game contained control, and cash in Washington, alarms have already gone off. Reports from the Pentagon suggest that U.S. analysts are now treating the India-Pakistan tension as a Tier 1 regional threat, a potential crisis that could reshape the Indo-Pacific map. America's position seems neutral on the surface, but behind closed doors, the Pentagon and State Department play a double game. They know that a distracted Pakistan could weaken China's Belt and Road Initiative. They know that a stronger India can act as a counterweight to Beijing's influence. So, they play both sides, sending messages of peace to Islamabad while quietly strengthening defense ties with New Delhi. Weapons deals, intelligence sharing, strategic dialogues. Everything moves fast when tension rises, and Washington knows, in war or peace, America always profits, but not all Americans agree. Inside the U.S. Congress, a silent debate is growing. Some fear that pushing India too close could backfire, dragging Washington into a conflict it cannot control. Others believe that chaos in South Asia could distract Russia and China from Europe and the Pacific. In short, the U.S. isn't trying to stop the clash. It's trying to steer it. The dragon watches silently. Meanwhile, in Beijing the mood is calm, calculated, and chillingly quiet. China knows one thing. Every time India and Pakistan face off, Beijing gains leverage. China's long-standing friendship with Pakistan isn't built on emotion. It's built on strategy. The China-Pakistan economic corridor, worth billions, runs through territories India claims. So if tension rises, it strengthens Beijing's hold on its projects and weakens India's confidence on the world stage. Chinese state media avoids direct commentary, but experts on CCTV use careful words. Regional stability must be protected. In diplomacy, that phrase means, we're watching, and we're ready to act if our interests are threatened. And what does act mean for China? It means cyber infiltration, intelligence coordination, and high-speed defense partnerships. It means turning every Indian move into a signal for Chinese counterplay. But here's the twist. China doesn't want a full-blown war, not now. Beijing wants India to remain busy, cautious, and distracted, while China continues expanding its influence across Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. In other words, the dragon doesn't roar. It waits, watches, and strikes when the world least expects it. Russia's return to the great game. Now let's turn to Moscow. As the US and China play their cards, Russia quietly steps back into South Asia's spotlight. Once a close ally of India, Russia now faces a dilemma. It can't afford to anger Pakistan, a potential buyer of weapons and a partner in energy trade. But it also can't risk losing India, its biggest defense market and a long-term strategic partner. So, what does Moscow do? It plays mediator, but not out of peacekeeping spirit. Russia's aim is simply to prove that it still matters in global diplomacy. Sources claim that Russian diplomats have already offered to host backdoor talks, somewhere neutral, possibly Dubai or Tashkent. But Moscow's goal isn't just to cool tensions. It's to remind Washington and Beijing that without Russia, no global conflict can be solved. And as Russian analysts say on state TV, when the bear enters the ring, even the lion and the tiger step back. The Middle East moves in, but now, the story takes a twist most people didn't see coming. The Middle East, often seen as an observer in South Asian affairs, is suddenly becoming a decisive player. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, nations that once stayed neutral, are now quietly engaging with both India and Pakistan. Why? Because this clash could redefine energy routes, defense partnerships, and global trade. For the Gulf nations, stability in South Asia means economic security at home. But behind the scenes, they see opportunity. If Pakistan's tension grows, Gulf states can offer peace diplomacy and earn global respect. If India seeks allies to counter China, Gulf nations can open investment deals and gain leverage over Delhi. It's a win-win for everyone except the people standing at the border. And here's where it gets deeper. Israel, too, has entered the equation. Recent reports suggest that Israeli defense advisors have been quietly consulting with Indian military think tanks, not to plan war, but to design a deterrent strategy that would showcase India's modern defense capabilities. So now the equation looks like this: India is backed by Israel and quietly supported by Washington. Pakistan backed by China and indirectly supported by parts of the Muslim world. A perfect setup for a global showdown. The United Nations dilemma. And where is the United Nations in all of this? Frozen, divided, powerless. As India and Pakistan trade sharp statements at the UN floor, global delegates exchange nervous glances, because everyone knows a single escalation could pull in nuclear weapons, refugees, and regional collapse. But the Security Council can't agree. The US and its allies defend India's right to security. China and Russia call for strategic restraint. And once again, the UN proves that it can talk for hours, but act for nothing. Behind the marble walls of New York, the diplomats whisper the truth that headlines avoid. The next major war won't start in Europe. It'll start in South Asia. A crisis waiting to explode back in the region. Troop movements grow heavier. Satellites show military exercises, but insiders call them pre-deployment readiness tests. The airspace gets tighter, cyber attacks increase, and a single miscalculation, a drone entering the wrong zone, a radar misread, a political speech gone too far, could ignite the unthinkable. Global markets tremble. Oil prices fluctuate. The world's eyes turn to New Delhi and Islamabad, hoping someone somewhere will step back. But no one wants to blink first, because in the grand chessboard of geopolitics, whoever blinks first loses. So the calm before the global storm, ladies and gentlemen. This is no longer a regional issue. This is a global trigger. One that could reshape alliances, economies, and entire world systems. The US is watching, China is calculating, Russia is balancing, and the Middle East is maneuvering for influence. Each power is waiting for the next move, not to stop it, but to benefit from it. And as the diplomats speak of peace and dialogue, the truth is becoming clearer than ever. This clash is not about who wins the war. It's about who owns the aftermath. The stage is set. The players are ready. The countdown has already begun. We now stand at the edge of a storm, a moment in history when silence is louder than explosions, and one decision can shape the destiny of 1 billion lives. India and Pakistan, two ancient civilizations, two powerful nations, two nuclear giants, now stare at each other across the border of uncertainty, and the world holds its breath. For decades, the world has said, never again. Never again will there be another full-scale war between these two nations. But as we speak, that promise is beginning to fade, replaced by whispers of preparation, strategy, and silent confrontation. The new clash plan has entered its final stage, and what happens next could change the course of the 21st century. The hidden moves behind the scenes, you see. Modern wars no longer begin with the sound of artillery. They begin with silence. The silence of coded orders, of satellites realigning, of generals waiting for a signal only a few can give. In New Delhi, a new defense directive circulates among top officials, one that talks of rapid precision and limited time engagements. Not all out war, but targeted dominance, the kind that sends a message without crossing the nuclear threshold. In Islamabad, intelligence channels detect unusual movements, not just on the border, but in the digital space. Servers are probed. Networks flicker. Anonymous cyber signatures appear, then vanish. Pakistan's defense command activates its counterstrike grid, an advanced AI-driven system designed to respond to both cyber and kinetic threats simultaneously. The digital age has changed everything. Before the first tank moves, the first drone flies, or the first missile launches, the data war decides who wins. The cyber battlefield experts now say the next great conflict between India and Pakistan will be fought in code, not combat. Banks, power grids, communication satellites, all are potential targets. And as the cyber battle intensifies, global networks start to feel the tremors. American tech firms report unusual disruptions in South Asian data centers. Chinese internet monitors go on high alert. Even European security agencies begin tracing cyber traffic that seems to circle the globe like a ghost. The battlefield has no borders now. The war is invisible, but its consequences are real. Because the world has entered a new kind of conflict, a war fought without declaring one. Diplomacy on a tightrope. Meanwhile, diplomats around the world scramble to contain what could be the biggest geopolitical explosion since the Cold War. At the United Nations, urgent meetings stretch late into the night. The Secretary General calls for restraint, but his words sound hollow in the face of growing defiance. In Washington, analysts warn that an open war could collapse trade routes, disrupt global supply chains, and push the oil market into chaos. In Beijing, military planners prepare contingency blueprints in case the situation spills beyond control. And in Moscow, officials remind the world that Russia still holds the key to mediation for a price. Every power wants peace, but on their own terms. Because in global politics, peace is never free. It's negotiated, traded, and owned. The spark that could ignite everything, then comes the moment that no one expected. A skirmish along a disputed border zone turns deadly. Within minutes, footage floods social media, unverified, chaotic, emotional. The world watches in real time as both sides issue statements, denials, and warnings. India claims provocation. Pakistan calls it aggression. And for the first time in years, fighter jets take to the skies on both sides of the border. Not in exercise, but in readiness. Global markets crash overnight. Oil spikes to record highs. The world's eyes turn once again to South Asia, not out of curiosity, but out of fear. Because everyone knows, when two nuclear, armed nations move even an inch closer to war, the world moves an inch closer to destruction. The unexpected intervention, but just as the fire begins to burn, a new force steps in. Global diplomacy under extreme pressure. Through emergency calls and encrypted channels, a three-nation coalition forms overnight. The United States, China, and Saudi Arabia, all agreeing on one thing. If this clash continues, the global economy could collapse. For the first time, Washington and Beijing share intelligence directly. Not out of friendship, but out of mutual survival. Within hours, envoys are dispatched to both New Delhi and Islamabad with a single message: stand down. Now. And it works partially. The escalation slows. Troops remain alert, but no further moves are made. The world exhales, for now. But the question remains, was peace restored, or merely postponed? The realization, a new era of cold conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not peace. This is the new Cold War, a silent, sophisticated confrontation fought in pixels and politics, in data and diplomacy. India and Pakistan have entered a new phase of rivalry, one defined not by open conflict, but by strategic competition. From defense alliances to trade pacts, from cyber technology to narrative control, every move counts. The new clash isn't about who wins territory. It's about who wins time, who outlasts the other, who adapts faster in the battlefield of the modern world, where influence is the new weapon and information is the new bullet. The new clash plan has achieved its goal to reshape the balance of power without firing a single shot. The global aftershock, the aftermath ripples through the world. NATO begins reviewing its Asia-Pacific strategy. The EU issues warnings about digital warfare threats. In Africa and Latin America, smaller nations start forming their own cyber defense networks, fearing they could be next in line for global manipulation. This isn't just about India and Pakistan anymore. It's about the future of warfare, the future of diplomacy, and the future of global survival. And amidst this chaos, the ordinary people, the citizens of both nations, ask the same question. When will peace finally mean peace? The final message to the world, ladies and gentlemen. The clash may be political, but the consequences are human. Every soldier on the border has a family waiting for him. Every leader making decisions has the power to destroy or save millions. The world has built machines that can end life in minutes, but has forgotten how to protect peace for centuries. India and Pakistan don't just hold the keys to their future. They hold the keys to the planet's stability. And if we, as a global community, fail to understand this, then the next war won't be fought between armies. It will be fought between generations, over water, over food, over survival. So today, as the new clash plan sends shockwaves across the world, remember this: peace is not the absence of war. Peace is the courage to stop one before it begins. Because in the end, it won't matter who had the bigger army. It will only matter who had the wisdom to step back. The closing lines, Z for viral hook. And so, the world watches, waiting for the next headline. Will it read, "War begins," or "History changed"? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The clash between India and Pakistan has already shocked the world. And this time, the world may never be the same again.